Well, thanks everybody for being here. Hope you've enjoyed the course content so far. This is our first discussion-based live session, and today we have Dr. Liliana Nolasco. She's been working with Casey for a long time, from my understanding. She's also responsible for a lot of the hatchery-focused course content, so a lot of the stuff you guys been going through came from um, Liliana. So after our discussion, if you have any questions on either course content or what we discussed today, this would be a good time to kind of go through that because she did a lot of that work as well. Um, so Liliana, I will let you take it away unless you need anything else from us.
No, I don't think so. Thank you, Adams. Very nice to be here. I don't know, did any of you watch the content already? Or do you have any question? Yes? Is that confusing or it's quite understandable? If not, anyway, I'm just going to go brief with a few points just to mention um, what is required, what is needed for us to have very good hatchability at the end. It's kind of repetitive information. It's information that you already have um, in your um, in your courses. So I'm just going to share my screen. Let's see if I remember how to do this. Window. There you go. Do you see my presentation, my PowerPoint? Yes?
Yep.
So how about now? Can you see it? Can you still see it?
We can
Yeah.
see it. It's not in presentation mode, but we can see the whole screen.
Is that in presentation mode?
No.
Oh, I put it in presentation mode. How about now?
No, it's the same.
Hmm. There you go. How about now? Is that in
There we go.
presentation mode? Yeah. Okay. So let's see. And now I cannot move it. Oh, there you go. So for us to have a very good hatchability, first we need just to be sure that we are really getting good quality of eggs. So how do we categorize and define what is a very good egg quality? Is for chicken production purposes, that will depend on the breeder farm management, which has a lot to do with sending to the hatchery very good egg quality, the flock eggs and nutrition, the flock age and nutrition, the health status of the breeder farm, and how do we manage those eggs? I mean, are we harvesting it constantly, or do they spend a lot of time in their nest? That will determine the quality of my eggs. How many days am I storing that egg before setting that for incubation? So those are different factors that has a direct impact on my egg quality. So that eggs will really provide me a chicken. So if I am setting a good quality of egg, I will have for at the end a very good quality of chicken. But let's see what is the criteria for selecting what is a good hatching egg. So those are two like aspect that we need to take into account. Is that internal quality or external quality? The external quality is quite understandable, something that we can see, appreciate. For instance, the egg shape, does that have a abnormal or misshapen eggs, which can result that for me very hard to identify what is the large part of the large end or the sharp end of the eggs, because that's something I need to make sure that I am setting the eggs in the right position in the setter tray. Like the sharp end should be down and the large end should be up. So if the egg shape is not quite good, it's going to be very hard to determine that position. This kind of malformation is very common in young flock or flock with stress or disease, and we know that that is just one aspect. And if my flock is stress or disease, I will also have a lot another problems like hatchability or fertility or perhaps contamination. The other things is shell quality integrity. That's things that we can easily observe, and this kind of eggs should not be getting into my setter machine because it will represent that it will intervene with the water exchanges and water evaporations. Oh, also, it also represents that there is something, that there is a problem in your flock with the calcium deposition. So what about cleanliness? I mean, we should not be, we should avoid by all means to hatch this kind of eggs. But sometimes they are eggs that are just there in one side, and it's very hard to catch up, but still we should be just making sure that um, the eggs should be very clean. For instance, in this example, it should be a probably gastrointestinal disorder that will accompany perhaps another issues during my incubation process. The how about cracker eggs? That's something that happen if I am having bad management, if I am really having a bad transportations, for instance, and this kind of crack could be just crack. The eggshell was cracked, but the internal membrane is not cracked, and so we just need to take it out because it's a window for bacterial entrance to the eggs, and that will produce a lot of contamination during the entire incubation process. And this hairline crack is very hard to see at the just with your bedside. It's where only the eggshell is being damaged, not the internal membrane. But sometimes in the incubators, they have these special machines that you can easily see this kind of hairline crack through a light. But this kind of egg should not get inside in these little machines because it will produce a lot of contamination.
I was going to point out, Liliana, your contamination you're talking about may not impact the hatching process, but it would impact the health quality of the chick later in life.
Oh, it will impact both. I mean, because when I have a lot of if I have a lot of contamination, it can, for instance, and I will show you. This is a bomb egg, which will explode and contaminate the rest of the egg. So
exploding eggs.
Egg,
that was something I learned from you and Mitch.
Yes, it's a bomb or contaminated. That will impact like when my chick is born. When my chick is hatched, it can die like in the hatcher machine. It can also go into the fluff of the chickens, and that will make that chicken like a coal if it's not fluffy, and it will impact my hatchability at some point. And it can also make a lot of late stage mortality because my embryo perhaps was, if it contaminate like a clean egg, it will get inside and perhaps will be the reason for embryo mortality in the second or in the third stage, like probably the first week or in the last week of incubation. It will have its effect in definitely its effect in hatchability. So you have any other question?
No, I was just clarification. So trying to drive discussion.
Okay, so this model shell is kind of, this is how it looks like through light. It represents like it was not a proper calcium deposition. So that means that those lighted spots represent like my shell quality is kind of weak, and it will drive a lot of water evaporation, which we need to control it. But if this egg is getting inside the incubator, the water evaporation rate is going to be kind of higher, and it will produce nothing. I won't hatch anything from it. So we need just to make sure that this type of eggs does not get inside our incubator machines. So what about, so a good quality eggshell should be smooth, free of rough ridges or excessive calcium deposition. So what about the internal quality of the egg? As I mentioned, like that is another aspect we need to consider for determining what is a good quality. So let's see, as I already mentioned, like floor eggs, those are eggs like, okay, they are laid in the floor, should not be inside, should not be considered as a hatching egg for our incubator. It's harvests like a lot of bacteria. That is the decision from the hatchery. If you really have a shortage of fertile eggs, sometimes they kind of will set this kind of floor eggs, but it is highly likely that your contamination, your exploder number are going to be up. And the reason why is because um, when the egg gets laid, it's coming from a high pressure from inside the body of the hens at different temperatures. So when it comes out to the environment, that changes in temperatures make like a vacuum process that will kind of suck in all the air that it's outside. And that's how the air cell is produced, just by that change in temperature. So if it gets in the floor, which is kind of has some feed, has poop, has a lot of bacteria. So that bacteria is actually getting inside. So the kind of these floor eggs might look like a good quality, but it is the breeder farm's job to label this is a floor egg and should be put like in a different tray. If an hatchery really needs to set up those eggs, it should be placed like very low in the lowest tray of your trolley, because if it explodes, it will not contaminate the rest of the egg, but rather just directly to the floor. So there are some measurements that we can take if a incubator really needs to set up this kind of floor. So where as the parent flock ages, there are a lot of changes happening in the egg. For instance, the egg weight the egg weight is going to increases. That's a biological and natural process. But with that increases in body weight, it also changes like the quality of the egg yolk and the egg white. For instance, we are having a bigger egg. So the bigger egg, the eggshell is going to be different, like it will be weaker as the egg gets bigger. The other difference is like the ratio between the egg yolk and the egg white is going to be different. It should be 1 egg yolk versus 2 egg white. So the bigger the egg, having a bigger egg yolk. So those changes also make my internal quality of my chicken, the internal quality of the egg will change. And at the hatchery, we have this kind of classification. What do we consider like a young flock, middle, or old flock? So the young flock is 25 to 35
Sorry,
weeks of
Liliana,
age.
I have a question. What did you say about the egg yolk size? Is it bigger for the older hens, or is it bigger for
It's bigger as the eggs gets bigger.
Okay.
Because of the ages, the egg yolk gets bigger. So that will
And then
make a problem there.
the egg white stays relatively the same.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So so these are kind of broad classification that we manage, or that's how we classify the different kind of block, and we try to provide like a different conditions for young flock, different condition to middle flock, and different conditions to old flock. That will be the ideal word, but we need to kind of make sure put all of these together, and based on also to the amount of how many, what is the percentage of my setting eggs coming from young or middle or old. That will determine how am I setting up my, for instance, my setter machine program. Another thing, as the parent flock ages, is the fertility. That's, as I say, it's a biological process. It will decreases, and it will decrease. Some of the measurements that we have in the industry is with young males. The fertility is directly related with the males. So at some points, they will add new males to this fertility to increase. As the fertility decreases, it also decreases the hatchability. I mean, that is rock evidence, and that's some things that we are aware of that, and that's going to happen always. So what about temperatures? The cooling process is very, very important. We need to bring that egg after laying down to the farm storage room, which is 69.8 Fahrenheit. How do we do that? It needs to be a very gradual process. We need to keep the temperature very close, because during transportation, if it gets warmer, it can get like sweating, like the environment is warmer than the temperature of the egg, so that will make condensation around the eggs, and that really represents a huge problem of contamination. So the temperature is very important to manage since the breeder farms. So in a way that when I receive that egg in the hatchery room, I also have a storage room. I should keep that egg at 64, 69 Fahrenheit degree. But there is another thing, that those eggs that I am receiving, I'm not setting that like right away. I'm not placing that in the incubator that same day. It probably take me 2 or 3 days. In some cases, it will take up to 10 days, especially if I am exporting those eggs to a different country, to a different place. So
that's what I was questioning. Have you can store eggs at a cool enough temperature for a certain amount of time and then put them in the hatchery and they still will produce a chicken, correct?
Yes, and that's, I mean, the data, what we have is that if you know that that flock, that egg is going to be stored like more than 10 days, these are the conditions. Like you should store that egg at 53 degrees, control the humidity to 80 to 85, and or egg orientation, like sharp end should be down. And there's also some turning that you should be doing at certain point of time if it is that long. But it's very detrimental how the longer those eggs are stored, it will pay, you will have to pay with hatchability. So the numbers are there. It is highly recommended if you just to have a window like storage time between 3 and 7. Those are like the best hatchability that you will get out of those eggs. If that is beyond that date,
we're not stopping the development of the egg. We're just slowing it down.
We are just slowing it down. With the storage, you just want to have like a zero physiology, zero physiology, but doesn't mean that it will stop. And what happens is during the storage time, it's not that they are growing, is they are water evaporation still keeps going. There's water movement inside that egg, like water from the egg whites go inside water to the egg yolk, so that it's just chemical changes, physical changes, plus like the embryo is dying because there's too much time in there. So based on how the other, as I already say, like how many days those were stored really will give you a sense of that internal quality of the egg. So we should treat it like different. There is a pre-treatment process, like before getting those eggs in the settle machine. So that will also helps if you have like longer period of storage time. So let's talk about incubation principles. We need to provide temperature, control humidity, ventilation, egg position and turning during the setup machines only, during the incubation process. And those are like natural biological process. If you watch a hen, that is what the hen is actually doing, like heating those eggs from because of their body temperature, like keeping the humidity, turning like moving those eggs. Actually, they move the eggs like 60 times per hour. It's amazing. Yes. So let's talk about the cereal machine. There are two types of machines that is used in the incubator in a hatchery. It's the cereal machine is where I initially set up those eggs, and the hatcher machine. So there are two differences in what kind of environmental points they control. But here in the cereal machine, as you can see, it's just a tray. We need to do the turning is where it's happened. It's bigger compared to a hatcher machine. There are more eggs, like capacity of this machine is bigger than the hatcher. Here we control temperature, humidity, air circulation, for the embryonic development. So as this is the same graphic that I already showed, like from hen up to the hatchery room. So now from the hatchery room to the incubator, we need to start increasing the temperature. So from the hatchery room to the incubator temperature, the incubator machine or the setter machine, it will start like 100.4 Fahrenheit. But what happened between the hatchery room and the in the cereal machine, I need to start slowly, increase that process slow. And this is where I already mentioned the pre-treatment is between 6 and 12 hours. The longer storage time you have those eggs, you will probably need more time. And the reason why we do this is because the embryonic development of all those are at different stages, because probably you have eggs from that were laid like 2 or 3 days before a different time, and all of them are coming with different developmental stages. So we need to start in the sterile machine with all like try to have all of them at the same developmental stage. So having a pre-treatment, like putting all those eggs, spend some time at 77 Fahrenheit degree, that will kind of assure you like they will have like the same startup. So this is a practice when you have a single stage incubator, which means that all the setter machine, you will put all these eggs in and you will take all those eggs out. That single machine can help you to have like to act as a pre-treatment, because you can control the temperature of that incubator. Whereas there are other type of technology, which is multi-stage incubator, which your setter machine contains eggs from different days. For instance, one batch of egg could have like 18 days of incubation, other can have 15 days of incubation, and one that can have probably 1 day of incubation. So in that case, that hatchery will have like a different room dedicated to keep this, to do this pre-treatment process. And as I say, the temperature is the most critical factor influencing the rate of embryonic development and the overall incubation time. And if I don't have this pre-treatment and I put all my eggs at different developmental stage, I will have some chickens hatching first very early and some chickens hatching late. So this is kind of very hard to manage, because that chickens that hatched first will spend a lot of time, more time in that hatcher machine, and will get dehydrated, and it will kind of, you will be affecting their quality, and it will perform bad, and probably it can die. So that's the reason why we really need to make sure like all the temperature of those eggs getting into that setting machine is kind of equal. So in a single stage machine.
I think we have
Yeah.
a question.
Yeah, I
Okay.
had I had a question, and I just wondering. I understand that we have to do all that process from the hen body to the incubation temperature, but specifically, I mean, I understand that we have to go to the storage room, temperature, the egg transportation, all of that. But why we exactly have to do it? Like, why, for example, why you wouldn't just have the hen body, which is the current temperature, which is from 103 to 105, let's say, and why just don't move it around directly to the incubator directly? I mean, I understand that you said it could be, or it maybe it's the only reason because of dehydration that we have to do it, because some of them will start earlier.
So
That's
a
all the
great
reason.
yeah, that's a good question. So the industry has done this, like the breeder farm is in one place and the hatchery plant is in a different place. The reason of the hatchery plant is to hatch like a lot of chickens, right? If I leave and this one. The other thing that I am getting eggs from different breeder farms just to fulfill my hatchery capacity. That's one reason why I need to move one egg from one place to another. And that is why I need to control the temperature. That's one thing. But also in nature, if we go to like the biology of the egg, if you think about one hen, it laid one egg every 20 to 24 hours. It laid one egg and it wait until clutch, probably 10 eggs. So what happened with the first egg? It just was waiting in that nesting room. So what the scientific information provide is that it is not good to hatch one egg right away after the oviposition. It needs to make some changes, some chemical changes inside, kind of increases the pH for them to be ready to start the incubation process. So even if I have my hatchery next to that breeder farm, it is not a good practice because I won't have a good hatchability to just hatch the egg right away. I need to wait at least 3 days. I believe 2 or 3 days are kind of the right time for you to settle that egg. I don't know if that answered your question, Mauro.
Yeah, it did. It does. Yeah.
So my husband, he is not from the ag, so he always asks, why they don't hatch the egg? Like similar question, how do the chicken don't hatch like right to the in the hens? Like if you think about it, one hens can only produce probably 12 chickens in 21 days. So that hen is not producing me eggs. So the way that the industry is set up is just to produce more, to have more eggs and to have more chickens. That's why the different sections, like the breeder farms in one place and the hatchery plant in a different place. And this way you can have more chickens hatched at the same time just to supply the market. This is market demand.
And it's all about logistics too. I mean, because you may have a bad lay day and you get off a cycle on Monday, but Tuesday you have a lot. And depending on your size of barn and your hatchery size, you have to it's the same way we do in other species by controlling the birth timing through different interventions, but it's a lot easier in chickens by when they set the eggs versus in mammals where we have to actually alter their ovulation rates.
So now my eggs are inside the incubator, and this is since we talk about metabolic embryonic development, at the beginning of once I set up that egg, the egg is going to start getting heat, like absorbing heat from the environment. And as we can see here, as it gets the embryo starts developing, it will start producing heat. So around day 13, 14, the amount of heat, metabolic heat that it produces is extremely high. So in that day, the hatcher, the incubator, the setter machine will change from warming mode to cooling mode, because the heat is so high that we need to start removing that heat from the cell machine. So that is a normal biological, because the embryo is bigger, and it will start producing heat. So I already mentioned about the multi-stage machine where I have eggs from different, where I settle eggs from at different days. So the principle of them is that those eggs that are in this late stage that produces heat, that heat is used to heat those new incoming eggs that are placed that I set in that machine. So the multi-stage machine, we can say it's never stop. They need to make like a schedule to stop throughout the year, and how many times am I going to stop that machine for cleaning process. So there is advantage and disadvantage of the two principles. A multi-stage machine can be cleaned just perhaps a couple of times per year, whereas the single machine, at the end of one incubation time, I can completely clean out that machine. So that's the advantage and disadvantage. Of course, here is more efficient because I am using less energy. In the multi-stage machine, it claims like you use less energy to warm the eggs, because you are utilizing this embryonic heat from those eggs which are in the late developmental stage. So this is all this is happening. This is the normal biology. Now let's move to the hatcher machine. It's a smaller machine. It kind of has a lower capacity, and as you can see, it has they use a different tools like basket. Because the basket would need a place where the chicken is going to hatch and it's going to move and needs to be freely moving. Here we don't do the turning anymore because it's not necessary. So the last 3 days of incubation they are going to spend here in the hatcher machine. So here things like we need to provide higher temperature to soften the shell membrane, and we need to control the CO2, because as the chickens start hatching, they will start breeding and producing CO2. So that is one of the parameters that is kind of being measured very closely here in the hatcher machine, and that will determine how much clean air gets inside, just to remove that CO2. So both machines, they kind of act similar, but they might control the conditions in a different way. As I say, for one big machine like settle machine, you will probably require 6 of these hatcher machines. Do you have any question?
Liliana, why do they choose 3 days specifically? Is that just a safety margin, or is it known?
Well, so yeah, so I believe it's because of the turning. It's well, if you are not going to use if you need to stop using the settle machine, for instance, and you need to bring all those eggs from here to there, the turning, I mean, the less turning that you can do is around 12 days of incubation. But they have realized that the turning is very important, and if you stop doing it, you will decrease actually hatchability. So why do they do that? It's because at day 18, the embryo is like completely developed. It's completely developed, and they don't, as I say, here is less less capacity. So you will, if you spend like, if you want to a chicken to spend more time here, you will need to invest in a larger facility, because you will, these are just going to be the hatching of one day. So if you want to have hatchability in 5 days, if you want to hatch chicken in 5 days, that means that you will have to have 5 times 6. That will be a very large incubator hatch plant. But physiologically, the chicken is well developed at day 18. It's positioning, it's already positioning, and I believe that that position of the egg inside the cell machine helps the chicken position in a way that it will be proper, it will be ready to peep and start cracking out those the eggshell. That's the main reason, the egg position, the embryo position. So okay, so once my chickens is ready, it is ready just to be in take out, which we still need to control the temperature. The chickens cannot regulate their own temperature. So having a large place with a cooling system is important. When one chicken, it's kind of, if you touch it, it's just warm, but when you have a lot of chickens in one place, it just can get very, very warm. So controlling the temperature of the like counting in the counting room is highly important. So here we need just to take out those chickens from those hatch basket, the baskets that were placed in the hatcher machine, and place it like in a different basket. As a natural and biological process, we are going to have colts. We're going to have non-hatched chicken, not hatching chickens, unhatched eggs, and those are kind of information the hatchery manager needs to reviewing and analyzing and keep track of those, because that will really tells you what, if you have an issue, if you have a problem, where was the problem during the incubation process or during the breeder farm. So after the chicken classification, it comes like the vaccination, and then counting and putting like 100 in specific box, depending on how many per boxes a hatchery decide to places. But here, what is a good, like a chick quality? Well, that should be one that is kind of, is not effective, doesn't have malformity. But this picture here, where the chicken is in her back, that is a way to just measure vitality, that chicken should be able to stand up in the up position within 3 seconds. If that chicken does not stand in those 3 seconds, that means that it has a problem. Like it's that like the belly is too full, or it's so hard. Do they have like a red spot in their hoof? What was the name? In their legs, and that means that maybe there was a temperature issue during the hatchery, during in the hatchery. So that is why it's important to have kind of sort of measurement. In your courses, you will have like different methodology on how to measure this kind of chick quality, and that should be kind of directly associated in how well these chicks perform in farm during the first week of their ages. If it's a lot of mortality at days 2 or day 3, okay, so let's go back and see what kind of problems did we have during my hatchery process. And I would like just to finish with a operational flow in a hatchery, because we already discussed, there are 2 types of machine. Those type of machines are placed in a separated, like physically separated building. Well, it's the same building, but it's separated rooms. So there should be one place for you to receive the fertile eggs, and in the extreme, the opposite side of your building should be the place where all those chickens are being delivered to the farm. And this is kind of a simple picture and showing like what's the movement, what's the flow of that egg. I mean, one egg, it's just coming from one side, and that chicken should be getting from a different side. And that is just to avoid contamination. And this flow is also needs to be followed by older employee. I mean, if I work in the egg holding room, I shouldn't be moving back and forth from the waste or from the chick grading side to the egg holding places, or extra, or from grading the eggs or placing the settle all those eggs to the setter machine. So that is why, at least in my personal experience, I like if I have two teams, one working in the clean area, that's what we call all that is related to receiving the eggs and setting those eggs in the hatcher in the settle machine. That is also good practice to have like a different uniform colors, so that way you will like identify easily if one person is actually misplaced in a different in a location that it shouldn't be doing. But this is practically the flow. You just have one shower, like shower in and shower out. This is just one shower for all. It's mandatory, and that's the only way for us to get in the hatchery building and catch it out. So it moves. Yeah, I receive the egg from one place. I do the egg holding or the egg storage. I do the grading. Some hatcheries, they also measure like the quality of those eggs by do either they grade it all by their machine, or sometimes those eggs are coming from the breeder farm already in the setter tray. So in that case, it's just a very small sampling just to measure the egg quality. Then that egg should be moved to the incubation room, and then the transfer room. The transfer room is a place where you can move those eggs from the settle tray to those hatcher baskets. Because how do we do that? It can be manually or semi-automatic, or it can be completely automatic. Depends on how many or how rich the company is to invest. Because the more automatic is the process, is the investment should be high. So that is the transfer. During the transfer is where we really have like a sense of how many exploder we will have, because here it tends to be very stinky, because all those exploder eggs are going to explode here. So and here also is where if the company is doing in ovo vaccination, for instance, or in ovo feeding, is here where during that transfer from the setter tray to the hatcher basket is in this area where it takes place. So after a transfer, it goes to the hatching room, and then once the chickens are ready, go to the chicken grading and holding, and then chicken delivery. There is a waste. There's always waste, and we need to have a place just to manage that properly, that waste. So this is just the flow.
I have a quick question about your in ovo vaccination comments. Is it better to vaccinate in ovo or when the chick is already hatched? Like, is in ovo vaccinations not wasting a vaccine for some eggs that are not going to hatch at all? Or is it better?
So the technology of in ovo vaccination, if you read about it, since there is a percentage of fertility, one flock will never be 100% fertile. So out of those fertility, they are just a percentage that will going to hatch and grow. So what I've seen of those ovo vaccination machines is that they kind of first they need to determine which egg has a live embryo. So for them to do the vaccine. So they cannot vaccinate only those eggs that has a live embryo. That's one thing, but it's kind of very expensive. So the payback, it's I don't know. The the company, when they make that decision, is because it is going to have a return, some kind of return. But the machine needs to be very calibrated, because it needs to make the puncture just in the right place. So in addition to that, if it's not just only over vaccinated, you really need to make sure that like you are really placing that eggs in the right position, because if it is in a upside, like it's not upside down, it will like be a disaster. It will just be a contamination. So it will depend, like if you are in that level, like investing in those transfer, it's in that kind of technology, it's because you are really taking care of all the rest of your process. So which one is better or not,
into the chick itself, or is it injected into the air sac? Where is the vaccine go?
it needs to get injected. It's not in the air sac. It needs to go below. So it can be injected like right in not in the chicken muscle, because that's no, it's like right above the neck. So that's why it needs to have a right position. And that's why the size of the eggs also needs to be homogeneous, because you cannot have like different sizes because of the calibration. Yeah, so there are many things to consider for a company to invest here. Well, what is the advantage is that immunization, that you are priming with that immunization that embryo like before it hatches. Whereas if you vaccinate your chicken after it hatches, so they already spend some time like unprotected during the hatching window, or after like right before they are vaccinated. So that is the advantage and disadvantage that those kind of technology can have.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I feel like the Innova vaccine machines have come a long way. They're a lot more accurate than they were initially, but they still have, like, there's still a little bit of reduced, I would say, hatchability, or they get a little bit of mortality from it because they don't all hit the exact right spot in the chick, and you can have some damage to the chick, you know.
I think it is becoming better. So it's
Yeah.
that reduction in hatchability. It might not be the false like the 100% like to blame the over vaccination. As I say, it's really your entire process in the back, like the quality of the egg, the position of the egg in the cell tray. So all those factors really needs to be kind of measured and be properly managed. So for you to have like success in that over vaccination. The other thing is that in addition to vaccinating the embryo, they also start adding some feed, like just for the developmental to accelerate the digestive system development. They also start adding feed. So it's very promising. It has a good results, but I believe it's very expensive. It's very expensive because you need to train, you need to maintain, and you really need to have your process like quite tuned. So so I already talked about flowing, the movement of your personal. So the other thing is the air pressure. Like there are more air pressure coming in those clean area. So that way, my building is designed in that way that the air moves from the cleaner area to that dirty area. So that's how new modern hatchery facility are built up, that is how they are currently being designed. And I believe that's all that I have for today. I want it to be like very simple, not like very deep. But if you have any question, I will be glad to answer.
Question. Oops. Somebody else go. My dog is barking. I'll be right back.
I'll go. I have an idea of this initial idea of how hatchery works because speak with hatchery managers on mostly on a regular basis. But I've read about on the lesson materials something about breakout analysis, and I'm just really curious if that is something that's done every after hatching, or and who performs it. That's
So
it.
that's a very great question. I didn't touch that here because that's one way of a hatchery to measure. You know, in hatchery, we need to take data everywhere. The data of your eggs that are getting inside, data on your condition of all the incubation, all the cell machines, data during transfer. And those are, they are kind of performance, let's say performance test. And I like the candling. The candling is like getting inside my incubator and lighting a sample, a small sample, and just taking out those eggs that are kind of very bright, like they don't have a embryo development. And how I will see the difference, because if there is a living embryo inside, when I light that up, I am in a very dark place. The incubator, the setter is a dark place, so that if a living embryo will be very dark, like it won't light up. If with a clear eggs, it will just be light. So I just take out those eggs, and I can break that egg out and define either if it was infertile or if it died during transportation, because I will have some embryonic development there, or I could determine like at what stage that embryo stop growing. So that's one kind of testing that the incubator, that a hatchery plant can have. In my previous experience, we did it like for every incubator. We did it like every incubator, like every day. And that it will depends on the management, right? But I already say you get inside the incubator, you can do that at day 11, 12, or 13. You can do either of those 3 days. You can do it early, but that will be very hard to define. So that's how I did it, 11, 12, or 13. After that point, remember, there is metabolic heat. So it will be kind of very suffocated for a person getting inside the incubator to start doing this kind of testing. So I will have data from transportation, from up all over up to the day I am doing the candling. So what happened from the day of candling up to their when they hatch it. So that data I collected from breaking out those unhatched eggs, because when I did the candling, I labeled that tray, and that label should be following. Like I need to keep track of that tray that I already candling, just to see that how many chickens did not hatch, right? And that will be breaking out the unhatched eggs. So that's how I learned and I did it. But you need person, right? You need two people, like one getting inside the incubator and one other one like breaking out those eggs. So there is another way that you can just measure at the end of the hatchery, like that basket, really break open all those eggs, and you will define at what day did they die. Did they die during the first, it was a early mortality, or second mortality, or second week, or third week. So it's very important for you to define, or at least correlate my incubation set points, like my programs, with that results. Because if you have higher temperature at the beginning, you will have a lot of early mortality. Or if you have, like, you did not control proper the temperature or humidity during transportation, you will probably have a lot of exploder. So yes, you need to train that person. You need to train that person to do this kind of analysis, because I think it's a critical point for an incubator. And if I am the manager of one hatchery, I would like to do it like every day. At least one small sample for every flock. If I am receiving the same flock like if I have my own breeders and I know that flock, I will have like the same eggs, like eggs from the same flock coming every. I might be um, reduce the amount of sampling of that flock because I know I am receiving the same flock. But if every week I receiving from different kind of places or different country, if I import the eggs, I would like to know the reasons of death. Yeah. So every hatchery plant should have their own standard because my hatchery in this location will be performed different than another hatchery in a different location. So there is a standard of the breeder farm. The breeder farms, the breeder farms, actually the genetics line, they will provide you some kind of a standard, and every hatchery should kind of being measured back to that standard, but based on the technology or the location, it may be different, very hard to just reach that standard. So I need to create my own standard in all my process.
Liliana, I have one last question, and then I think we're about to run out of our 1 hour window. So with talking to some of the breeder folks recently, we've had a lot of disease issues in the US over the past year. We've had a lot of avian influenza, we've had a lot of avian metapneumovirus. And what I think a lot of them are doing with the breeder flocks that will eventually produce these eggs is they're pushing them really, really hard to lay as early as possible, and then they're keeping them in the breeder barn well beyond 60 weeks. So some of these people are trying to keep flocks up to 100 weeks. Um, and I do think they've been successful at getting more eggs out of the hens to the hatchery, but I don't know what your thoughts are on like if you keep a flock until 100 weeks, what are those eggs going to look like? What are the chicks going to look like?
Well, you will have that is okay, I'm not muted. That is a kind of a business decision, like based on what they can have. If that is more profitable for them to have, like to have the those flocks like longer, it's good. So they really are working on the fertility. They need to do the spike and they need to look after the nutrition just to provide like a fertile eggs, because what happened was we see like as the flock gets older, your fertility will decline, and that is normal. So what I will guess, if I had to work to have to work like a flock with 100 weeks of age, I will be kind of more rigid with my egg classification, like really just try to send like those like good quality of eggs for me to not waste energy and space in my hatchery, right? The other thing is just to keep in mind, as I mentioned, the eggs gets bigger. So having like probably some of them might not fit in the tray, in the settle tray, or perhaps they do, or just try to control the egg size. So I mean, I think that's a business decision. Your fertility will be lower, your hatchability will be lower, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your chickens are going to be of bad quality if you really take good care of the breeder farm and if you really provide a very good conditions during your hatching process.
Cool. Um, well, thank you. I'll just say that if you have questions that didn't get answered in this discussion period, remember that you can email us. We can make sure that Liliana gets those, and we can make sure we communicate answer any questions that you might have. If you think of them over the next week or have something that didn't get answered in this time frame. And then I'll also say our next session is at the same time on September 30th. I'm still waiting on 100% confirmation, but as of now, our focus is going to be breeders, and I tentatively have Dr. Taylor Boyette. He's from Hendrix Genetics. He is a veterinarian with them, but he right after receiving his DVM while he was studying for his boards, he managed all of their breeder flocks. So he's got a mix of management, and he also grew up on a broiler operation. So he's kind of got a mixed background. I'm hoping we can have a good discussion on breeders that will kind of complement the hatchery lecture. So
I would like.
also, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Give me
I
the
was also
word.
going to say we just finished up writing and reviewing the final exam. I know probably no one's made it all the way through the course material yet, but that will be available on the website for you here soon.
Okay, so I wanted to say it as well. The recording of the sessions are going to be available on the website as well. Please allow it 2 or 3 hours for this to happen. And because I understand that sometimes some people might learn better by just rewatching something that they just saw. So it could be also better for you to, if you are not really possible, if it is not possible for you to join the session, you can also watch the session on the website. There will be a separate section which will be recordings, and you will be able to watch it from there. Okay.
Thanks, Mauro. Anyone else? Any announcements or anything? All right. We'll see you guys on September 30th, same time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you.